Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alia Tayyebi, and between myself and Hurmat, we will be moderating today's session of Book Clubs Across Borders between Faisalabad and Khost. This is our second session, and this is the second in the two cities. So, welcome to the session, and we hope that you enjoy the session and learn from each other. So, the book that both the cities were reading was called Fearless. It is stories of amazing women from Pakistan. We'd like to hope that some of these women you were already familiar with, and some of these women you got to be introduced to for the first time. And while reading through their stories, you were able to connect with their feelings of resilience, their feeling of one aspirations to be more than what they were told they could be, and through their dedication and commitment to their causes find faith to be able to pursue your dreams. So on that note, I'd like to go to Afghanistan and ask our friends in Khost to tell us what they thought about the book and what was their favorite story from the book. So Khost, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we are glad to be here again with this second session with Faisalabad. Our boys are totally ready to bring the amazing points and stories from book. So everyone is really excited and looking forward to start the session and give their comments and views about the book, and also about these amazing women that were really key to their country development and their improvements, and also their resilience, struggling attempts. And also, as a whole, this book is very inspiring for all of us and for all of my boys. So they are ready to start the session with you and have a good and meaningful discussion.
That's wonderful to hear, and we are really excited to learn what the boys have learned and share with us their stories. And then we can move to Afghanistan, to Pakistan, and get the children from Faisalabad to talk about their favorite characters from the book. So let's get somebody from Khost to start the conversation by telling us their favorite character, their favorite stories from the book, and the women that they felt most inspired with. So, Khost, over to you.
Yeah. So first,
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mumtazira. Yeah. As I read the book, it was a really interesting book. It has some amazing women from Pakistan, from different provinces or areas of Pakistan. But my favorite character from this book was Fatma Jinnah, the sister of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan. And she did a lot. She contributed to the country, and she have paved the routes for the new generation of the nowadays Pakistan girls. And all over the book, there were some amazing characters that they have done a lot for Pakistan before the partition of Pakistan and in new Pakistan. So I think they have done a lot for the girls, for the generation of girls to Pakistan. So that is all, I think.
Thank you so much for those thoughts, and we are so glad that you found the story of Fatima Jinnah most incredible. I'd like to say a little, I'd like to give a little more information on Fatima Jinnah. Mohtarma Fatima Jinnah was the founder of Pakistan, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Fatima Jinnah was a dentist by profession, and she used to practice in Bombay. But when her brother started the struggle for Pakistan and he lost his wife and had a small daughter to take care of, she gave up her practice and decided to contribute her whole life to the cause of her brother, whom she completely agreed with, which was to create a separate homeland for the Muslims of United India, because she, like her brother, believes that it would be a much better option for the Muslims living in United India to have their own state home rather than share it with the other ethnicities, because they believed that the Muslims and their rights and their faith would not be safe in a united India. Fatima Jinnah worked tirelessly, and throughout her lifetime, as long as her brother was alive, she was completely apolitical, which means that she never got involved in politics, but dedicated her life more so to make sure that the life of her brother, who was a very busy man and was also unwell, was as easy as it could be. And she tried with her, she tried and she succeeded, and she ended up becoming a huge role model for the women in Pakistan, because even though she never took center stage, she still ended up doing a lot of work, especially in terms of getting the women together to fight for the cause of Pakistan. So she used to do a lot of jalsas, which basically means that she used to get together women in a gathering, talk to them about what they believed in and what they thought of, and then get them involved in the struggle for independence. After the birth of Pakistan, she was also very connected to the cause of women in the newfound country, and she worked for lots of different organizations which work towards empowerment of women, towards education of young girls, and also towards vocational training of women so they could become economically independent. So yes, this was just one of the stories that you came across. I would like to know if there is anybody else in Khost who would like to come and talk to us about maybe another person from the book that they found most inspiring.
Yeah. Madam Olia, excuse me that I interrupt. I just want to be a little bit shorter your speech and your talking discussion. It's really I think lengthy because we have lots of students there. Just try to be a little bit brief while you're presenting your discussion and brief about the book, because there are a lot to say, but due to the lack of time, we cannot be that lengthy. Excuse me again.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Harun. I studied a lot of things about this book. This was a good book about amazing women from Pakistan. This book inspired us to lead our daughter and sisters to get education and struggle to their rights and get education from different views. It was a good book for us. I studied and liked the Benazir Bhutto story, that she was a good and powerful woman from Pakistan, and he did a lot of for women in his country. She worked for women in Pakistan, and also she 2 times exiled from Pakistan, but she never give up, and also she women, especially Pakistani women, to struggle to their rights and good education. She says to all of women in Pakistan that stay against your powerful opponent with steady determinations, but never give up.
Thank you very much for that. And on that note, let's move to Faisalabad and ask if anybody from here also found the story of Benazir Bhutto, the first female prime minister of Pakistan, inspiring, and if they would like to add on to that.
Okay. 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 Assalamu alaikum. Can everybody hear me?
Hi, Faisalabad. I'd appreciate if you could continue sitting, because when you're standing, your face is getting cut.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Of
So
course.
okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Benazir Bhutto. So basically, she was raised in a political family and she became a politician considering the fact that her father, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, he was also a very famous politician. She was very shy and very gangly, but after the death of her father, he got hanged. Her father basically got hanged. She decided to follow the footsteps of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, even though she was very shy. Yeah, so she was Pakistan's first prime minister, like first female prime minister, and this was a great deal for the country and for Muslim countries specifically all around the world, since we don't find many women standing up as prime ministers. And she also really promoted women rights. She stood for women rights. She yeah.
Thank you for that, Faisalabad. Now, I'd like to ask maybe somebody else from Faisalabad who would like to talk about another female who they thought was very inspiring from the book.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Aska Imran from KTS, and I would like to talk about Fatima Jinnah since I find her the most interesting personality discussed in this book. Fatima, Fatima Jinnah is a really important personality in Pakistan's history as well as a very important women leader known as the mother of the nation, Malje Millat. She was the sister of Qaeda Azam and the first Muslim founder of Pakistan and made continuous struggles along with her brother as his helping hand, playing an extremely important part in the Pakistan movement. Apart from that, she was the leader of the Muslim women and a representative of the Muslim League. She had joined politics at a time when women didn't take part in it and weren't considered to be important enough to join politics, leading many other women under the Muslim League. Even after the death of Qaeda Azam, when Pakistan had already formed, she was an active member in the politics and even stood in the elections on which she was highly criticized by the male candidates, but still she didn't stop her work. She has set an unforgettable example for all the Muslim women because they aren't considered as important as the men and sometimes are underestimated for their abilities and courage.
Thank you so much for that. And on that note, let's move to Khost and ask if there is somebody else over there who'd like to come and speak to us about who their most inspiring woman from the book was. Khost, over to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Usman from Afghanistan City. So this was a really fantastic and amazing story about women. So we got more points from this book. And also the best character was about Nur Jahan, who is the famous singer in Pakistan. That Nur Jahan was a famous singer in Pakistan. That and also Fatima Jinnah, like we can mention, and also Malala Yousafzai and other famous characters over here in Pakistan. But Nur Jahan was a famous character in Pakistan, a famous singer in Pakistan, also famous actress in Pakistan. And also, he has, she has 1,000 songs in her album, like including Sindhi, Urdu, and also Punjabi. And also, we can mention more of them, like they have done more things for their own country, they serve for their own country, and also that even though that she passed away nowadays, but her name remained in history books in here. But most students, most ladies can mention in their own historic books here. But also like Fatima Jinnah was known as the founder of Pakistan, and also Malala Yousafzai was the owner of the Nobel Prize of in 2014 in Pakistan. But also, however, that there was a bad situation in Pakistan, but no one to let him to get education in Pakistan, and also uh, when he go to the USA, now he continued here on education here in Oxford University.
Thank you so much for that. Anybody else who'd like to come and speak about their favorite character from the book, from Afghanistan before we move to Faisalabad?
Yeah, so I didn't read the book, but I'm going to try to. Yeah, generally, you can give some tips. No, they're not mentioning this, which I haven't read the book. Yeah, they're not mentioning this. Hello, I am Ahmad and I'm from Afghanistan. And thank you so much for arranging such meetings where we can discuss about the achievements of women. As we all know, that women are the part of society. Their role is very significant in society. Uh, Here in Afghanistan, women faced with a lot of problems, and I just want to talk generally about their problems, and I want to mention their problems. The major problems of women in Afghanistan, like domestic violence, violence, abuse in their families, they are not treated equally. And second, discrimination at workplace. Uh, they are not treated equally, like the parents only send boys to school, and they pay attention to only boys, but women or girls are not allowed to get education. And you know that Islam has given a lot of rights to women, and also our constitution has given a lot of rights to women. Their participation in governmental affairs is really significant. Like women and girls want to be engineers, they want to be doctors. We need them so much in society. Another very big problem is no right to education, as I just mentioned it, and less participation in workplace, their participation in governmental affairs and society is very important, because they are capable of doing many things if we give them opportunity, if we give them a chance. And the last problem, no freedom to marry. So these are the problems, and oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing those with us, and we really appreciate it. Anybody else from Afghanistan who'd like to talk about the book and their favorite character before we move to Faisalabad?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you properly. Could you speak a little louder?
Yeah, thank you. The book about the seven queens were the part of the story of the history of Pakistan. It tells they told us about the reveres to the women. This give courage to the other women like Marina was loved with her homeland when she was against the Korean laws. The other woman who was the mammal. When she loses her father, well, she started, also she and her sister started the magic. They tried the love in longing, the stories. The other one was Soshi. Soshi was the poor couple raised, but their families apart, Dema. Soshi felt,
Excuse me. I have to interrupt you, but we can't. You are not audible to us properly.
but I couldn't catch the
There is
words.
some issue with your mic.
Okay. Voice
There's a
right.
distortion in your mic. Can you please resolve the issue?
I'm talking about the story.
Yeah, our mic is open.
That's so fun.
Is it audible enough?
No, your voice is just too distorted.
It's not coming distorted to us. Could you check the settings at your end, please?
It's okay.
Yeah? Wonderful. Please continue.
Probably not from our side.
So, ma'am, can I tell them to continue? Yeah, you may please continue.
Okay. And the other one that was the queen with the name of Nuri, she was a fisherwoman, and also she was a victim of the jealousy of the poor local ruler. After she died, the king made a simple tomb as a moment. She was a romantic creator in Sandy literature. So this was my point of view about the book. That's why the end. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Moving on to Faisalabad, let's get the children from Faisalabad to talk to us about their favorite characters from the book. So, Faisalabad, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Ahmed Faisal. So my question to my comrades on the other end of the call is that what role do you think this book played in in portraying the significance of women in South Asia in such a vehement and repulsive society where sexism has been a dominant factor in contributing to the repression of women? How has this book tried to counter this ideology?
All right. So Faisalabad has a question, and correct me if I'm saying it right, but your question is how can we address the issue of women not being given enough rights, and how can we empower them? So, Afghanistan, what do you think about it? What are the steps that we can take to ensure that women have more freedom, more independence, and their voice is heard? Anyone?
Yeah. God wish.
Yeah. The question was that how they failed the rules for the new generation to do well, how the book impressed the new generation. I think, as I mentioned before, that this book have failed the route for the new generation of girls to do to become like they were in the books, like the characters in the book. They can become like we heard Malala Yousafzai in a book, and now she is alive. New generation or new children or women, female children can be like another Malala. And we can have another Fatima Jinnah, we can have another Nur Jahan. So these are the messages for the new generation to become like the characters in the book. So and they have failed the rules for a new generation to become like them. So I think the book really embraced the society.
Thank you so much. Yes, I kind of agree with you on that. And our colleague Aruj also has some comments and some queries that she'd like to pose for everybody. So Aruj, over to you.
Thank you, Alia. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I just had one question for Faisalabad. Hello, Faisalabad. I hope you guys are doing well. I just wanted to know, were there any women in the book that you hadn't heard about before or you didn't know about before? And were their contributions novel to you when you read the book?
Hello once again. So there is one particular woman I wanted to talk about who I never heard of before, but when I read about her, I was so yeah, I was so inspired. So her name is Asma Jangir. Um, so one of the things about her I found out is that she's a fearless woman. She's called fearless because of the struggles she faced as an 18-year-old. Basically, she faced a lot of like constant criticism due to her parents because her father, who did a lot of public writing, ended up in jail quite a lot of times. So she faced a lot of a lot of yes discrimination and all those things she faced because of that issue. So she would stand up for her parents. That's why she's known as a fearless woman. She never feared what other people thought about her. She always stood for what's right. She had a tough experience. Court was she would always constantly go to the court in order to release her father, and it was like a special place for her because that was the place where she would dress up and go meet her father, because in jail the her father wasn't allowed to meet his family members and friends. She also went to law school. She got dropped out because of marriage, and she still managed to achieve her goal because she was dedicated to it. She was determined. She was committed to achieve her goal, and that's one thing that really inspires me about her, how she never gave up even after marriage. And that's one thing I feel like every woman in this book, that's one characteristic that every woman should be holding, that you should achieve your goal even if you're oppressed, even if you're forced to get married or whatever it is. Just do it. Do what you love. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that with us. Anybody else in Faisalabad, or should I pose my next question? Shall I go ahead?
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mariam, and I'm going to talk about a personality I found really inspiring in this book. And the name is Zenith Irfan. And she was a motorcyclist. And what really inspired me is that she traveled 3,200 kilometers from Lahore to the Khanjara Pass. And this is a really mountainous area, a dangerous place. And so I really think she fits in with the theme fearless in this book, that she really was fearless, going into places all alone. And even that on a motorcycle rather than like a camper van where she would have some facilities for herself. And I really liked how the book phrased one of her quotes. She was said something along the lines of, "Death will come anyways, even at home." So she's not really afraid to die, and she's more worried about completing her life before she dies rather than trying to stay safe from death. And I think that's really inspiring about her. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And I do really agree with what you just said there, that we are often as women taught that you need to stay safe and you need to be sheltered and you need to be, within the, domestic sphere or a safe or a familiar sphere. But as opposed to living your life the way you want to, but it really is, of course, in your hand to be able to challenge that. Even if you're not completely successful, there will be something that you'll be able to get out of it, hopefully. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, I have one more question. This is for Afghanistan. I would love for you to take it up first, and then we can move to Faisalabad. And it is that we have acknowledged, both from our Afghan participants have acknowledged, as our Faisalabadi participants have acknowledged, that there are certain hindrances for women, whether they are being held back in the workplace or being held back in education or whatever, right? What I want to know is, do you think there were some unique hindrances for these women that they overcame that perhaps men in their journeys would not have had. For example, if there was a woman who became a singer like Noor Jahan, um, do you think that she faced certain hurdles that a man becoming a singer would not have faced? It's just an open question. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Thank you. Over to Afghanistan.
Regarding the question that is there anything that women did even though a man hasn't done it yet? Anything that a women did it and a man is very failed to do it. Of course, you can give the example of some women here and their roles. Yeah. Pardon? You can give the example of her. Yeah.
Yeah, I have an example of in our country, a female that we have, my one Malala, that no one male can do that in that time. We have faced with, to lose that war with British, but that was unique female, my one Malala, that she inspired our soldiers to fight against the British soldiers and beat them in the time. That's, we have one example of us in our country. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Faisalabad, the same question for you.
Hello. I think the question was, do women face more hurdles in achieving their goal as compared to men? And I would think that um, this book really portrayed the answer that yes, they do face a lot of hurdles, especially some of the famous people you were talking about, such as Benazir, the first prime minister, and the other people in here, such as the motorcyclists and the girls who called themselves feminists. These girls were criticized for what they were doing, and I think that a man in their own position shouldn't be criticized for that much. A man as a prime minister isn't criticized for being outside of the home or not helping the kids grow or any of the other stereotypical problems that men face. Even Fatma Jinnah, she was a politician, but even though she never became the prime minister, she faced the exact same problems. They faced this criticism just for the fact that they were a woman. They weren't lacking in skills or education. So I do believe that it is harder for females to work in a male-dominated industry because they face more criticism that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those thoughts. I have a question for Afghanistan. Afghanistan, we read some amazing stories about amazing women from Pakistan. We are so glad that you got to know about our women and their absolute daredevil attitude where they don't believe in giving in to the environment but actually go against the society where they feel they're being pushed into a corner, and they have been doing so since the beginning of our country's birth. I would also like to know if there are any aspiring, inspiring women from Afghanistan throughout your history that you have heard of, or that you have um, or that you have come to know of that you would like to share with the Pakistani audience?
Of course, some examples of one woman who has played a wonderful role in the development of the country.
I'm sorry, Afghanistan, I could not hear you. If you could just maybe come closer to the mic and speak into the mic, maybe, because I think there is something wrong with your mic setting.
Yeah, of course. any examples of women, famous women in Afghanistan, as you read in the book? So they were from Pakistan, from Afghanistan. Yeah, Mumtaz,
Yes, we have so many inspirational women throughout the history of Afghanistan. The clear example, the first example, who is an inspirational example for all the women around the world, just not just in the region or in the country, that is Malala, my one Malala. Afghan troops were in the war and they were in the battle with the British who were trying to occupy Afghanistan, and the Afghanistan side was in a weak zone. Finally, there was a girl, he called a poem that she was saying, if you're not going to win the battle, so so after that, Afghan troops got better and they won the battle. Nowadays, we have lots of women that has inspired the generation. For example, we have pilots like Nilufar, we have singers like Nagma Safirai, and we have Fawzi Yakufi, the member of parliament, Shakuria Barzai. Nowadays, we have Sholat Zadran, the youth representative to the United Nations, and we have lots of women that are inspirational for the new generation. I just give a few examples. There are many, so many. It cannot be clear just in 1 hour or 3 hours.
Thank you so much for that. Now let's move on to Hurmat, our colleague, and get her to be a part of the conversation as well. Hurmat, are there any questions, stories that are personally very, very special to you that you'd like to share, and maybe a question that you'd like to pose to the students?
yeah.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to share, in case regardless, I want to share a few things that I have got from the book, and it's really interesting for me. So one of the most important thing in this book, or especially about the women history, is their poverty, and their poverty in difficult situations. They broke all those obstacles and flied high. So overall, this always reminds me that the chance of real development is for the poor people, So basically, we just think that the opportunities and the chance for going or flying high is only for the people who are really advanced. Nowadays, we have lots of facilities, but these things is really in conflict, in contrary with this point. All these women had poverty. They are raised with lots of barriers, lots of difficulties, but they overcame all these things and got their dreams and got their positions where they want and went there. So this is a great inspiration for all the generations, especially for the people who are totally trapped by poverty. They shouldn't give up because of poverty. Why? These are the great examples. And also we can give some other examples from the world, like all the greatest people in the world that are past in the history are also nowadays nominated the history are from the poor families, not from the rich families, not from the families that they had already lots of advancement or facilities. So this is one more most important point and interesting point for me. And another one is that most of the characters from this book, the women characters, they are very interested in art and literature. So this raises another point for me, that generally women are really interested in art and architecture, so like literature, poetry. So these things, generally these things make a human being very peaceful. If someone is involved or interested in these things like literature, poetry, or art, they are really in love with nature, with the environment, with the people. So it means that a woman cannot be a violent person. Why? Because they really love nature, they really love poetry, they really love environment, they really love art, because art cannot afford or take something violent. So this is another really interesting point for me that I got from the book. And the third one is I just want to tell you that I present these things regardless. Okay? So, and the third one is that it's a really interesting for me is that they are always remained what they are. I mean, it doesn't matter where and in which field you work. These women have helped and give back through different angles. Like we can give lots of examples from the book that they are stayed but they are, and the most important thing in everyone's personality is that to be as you are. So they are stayed as they are, what their intentions were, they struggle and fight for that and guard their intentions. And they didn't just leave the road which was the right road for them, which was considered as a good way for them. And they just followed their goals and got their targets. And so these were some points that I presented regardlessly, even though I interrupted Hormatrios's announcer. So excuse me, just go ahead, and I'll come back.
Thank you so much for those thoughts and your criterias. There are certain points that you raised that kind of make me want to speak on them. So you spoke about women just being interested in art and literature and in softer things. I kind of don't agree to that completely, because in the book there are certain characters who are the first fighter pilots. There are women who have become Microsoft Office, women who worked in technology, who worked in space, mountaineers. So women are able to achieve anything and everything. So I don't think one should kind of restrict them to a certain category of what they can and cannot do, because that is one of the biggest problems that we have in our society, that we stereotype women. Okay, this is the only thing that they can do. And on that question, I'd like to go to our friends in Faisalabad and ask them if they could talk to us about some women that they spoke of, which push the boundaries of what is acceptable for women to do.
Yeah, Ms. Ali, I just didn't need that women are only able of literature or art. I just think that majority of the characters from that book is according to writer. They work in writing, they work in poetry, singing. So all these things are stuff of art and so these literature. So I just don't limit them to a specific anything. If a man can be a doctor, a woman can be a doctor. If a man can be an engineer, a woman can be. Whatever a man can be, a woman can be. But I just mean that these were very interesting to me, and it was actually a positive point. And I just think like they cannot be ever violent, because it's a good point. Why? Because they are in love with the nature or the architecture, electricity, and these things. So I just didn't need to limit their abilities. They have abilities of everything. Actually, you have ability to do lots of things. Everyone have the ability to do lots of things. So I just didn't mean to limit you. I just mean the majority of the characters in this book were very involved and interested.
Thank you so much. So Faisalabad, anyone who'd like to take this conversation forward and talk about some women mentioned in the book who break the stereotypes of what the softer arts and softer education, which is acceptable to women, especially in societies like Pakistan and Afghanistan. Women who push the boundaries and do things which are predominantly considered men's domain.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
That men biologically are proven an average man has more physical power than an average woman. So do you think that an average woman has more emotionally like strength than an average man? Do you think women are emotionally more strong due to the trials of life they face?
Sure. That's a very interesting question, and I will just give you my opinion on it. Then I will ask my colleagues to give theirs. I do not think that there is such a thing as emotionally strong and physically strong. It all depends on the skills that we define and from a young are asked to hone. So, for example, a woman from a very young age could be doing physical training and end up becoming much more stronger than your average man. Exactly in the same manner, a boy could be, inculcated in finer arts and softer artistic endeavors and end up becoming much more emotionally available than any woman. So these are just general stereotypes that have been defined since the beginning of time in the patriarchal system to put all of us in little boxes. And when we try to push those boxes, we are told that we are not able to do so because we aren't built that way. We go back to prehistoric man and we talk about men and women as living in individual existence, then men and women both had to develop their skills because there was no society, there was no family. So a man and a woman weren't married. If a woman wanted to survive, she had to go out and hunt for herself. She had to defend herself. And not only that, but she also had to reproduce. Exactly in the same way, a man had to go out, hunt for himself, defend himself, protect himself, and they were not doing it together. They were doing it as individuals because that is how society or how human civilization during the times of the Neanderthals was. And then when we move from Neanderthals to the Homo sapiens, that is when our physical structure changes, our society and our culture changes, and we end up becoming living in groups. When we start living in groups, we all say, okay, because a woman has to give birth and reproducing is so important, so we protect her and the man goes out to hunt. But it does not take away from the role of the woman. So I think personally, in my opinion, and I am open to people not agreeing to my opinion, after all, it is my opinion, is that men and women are both equal in every way, whether that strength or emotional stability or emotional strength. It just depends on how and what we are developing as we grow forward in our lives. From a very, very young age, in all societies in the current 21st century system, women are told to grow up in a certain way and they are nurtured in that way, and men are nurtured in a certain way to grow. So from that childhood to adulthood, when you are nurturing something to grow in a certain way, they will only develop in that way. There are so many examples of women who are as strong physically, if not stronger than men. And there are so many examples of men who are as emotionally sensitive as women, if not more. And I would love Hurmat's opinion on that. And then we can go to Afghanistan and get their opinion. I hope that answered your question, Faisalabad.
Yes, I really liked your answer. I kind of agree that yes, we should not restrict men and women to certain stereotypes. However, I was just talking on an average basis on what mostly people are like. And I'm just saying that yes, I completely agree about the nurturing point. We nurture men and women separately in different ways, and that leads them to believe that they are allowed to do a certain thing and not allowed to do a certain thing, which should not be the normal thing around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Finally. So, basically, while reading the book, I found some women which I was aware of because of the kind of work that we do. But I would like to ask Faisalabad especially, and also I would like to know of for friends in Khost their opinion on it about female activism. Like we were talking about, if women are more emotionally sensitive, or if they're strong-headed, or whatever you want to say. But the female activists that were mentioned in this book, like Women Action Forum, they have mentioned Nigadat. Did you guys know about these women before, or did you get to know about these women while reading the book? Or if you have any questions about them, or how do you guys think about female activism and the whole movement of Aurat March that is happening in the past couple of years, and it's still happening. So yeah. Or if you guys don't know anything about it, that would be fine. We can talk about it.
Excuse me. Uh, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Samar Shad, and I would like to just say something before we move on to the discussion point. I want to say that isn't it kind of ironic that we're talking about feminism with a group of students that doesn't even have a single woman in them?
Unfortunately, the LLC Center in Khost does not permit for boys and girls to be in the same space together. You have to respect the norms of society and you must not question them. I think that's very unfair. So, because of the way the center is built, they cannot have girls in the same space as boys. Hence, we just have boys over there, but we are trying to see if we can also get a group of girls or hosts who can join in from a different venue.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. I have a question.
Yeah, excuse me. First, I would like to come to the earlier point that he just disagreed with the one of the audience with Faisalabad that asked the question that basically, according to science, scientific study, basically women is weaker than a man, and you just said what about the emotional difference? But actually, you disagree with this, and I disagree with you, Ms. Alia, because science says that a study in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that men had an average of 26 equals 12 kilograms more skeletal muscle mass than women. So it means that women also exhibited about 40% less upper body strength and 33% less lower body strength. An average the study found. So these are some, we have some scientific proofs to that. You give a very good reason that why women are equal to men physically and emotionally. Emotionally, it's a different thing, but we are just talking about physically, and I just want to prove this. You give very good reasons that why women are equal to men, but the fact is still remaining that women are a little bit weaker according to science than men because of some specific or particular situations that they have, like giving birth to children. So this issue makes the women weaker, and also having the mentally problem. So you know better than me that you are physically weaker than me, and and if you still disagree with you, I'm gonna just tell the boys that please just have a competition, physical competition, that who beats. So you will see, just prove this.
Thank you for that. I respect your opinion, and I think this conversation needs to end here because I don't want it to turn murky.
No.
Like I said, this is a forum where we all state what we think and take it forward for our students to think about. The whole idea uh, about men and women is to respect each other in their spheres as they are, and not to limit them into stereotypes. That is one of the most important things. And as we study about fearless women, I think it is very important for both countries, India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, to get to know the women in their countries who have defied the norms of society and gone out and accomplished something not just for themselves, but for their countries and for many other women in their country who would get inspired by their stories. Especially both countries, India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, are unfortunately underdeveloped. And if we want to develop and progress into the 21st century, then one of the most important components of that is to take 50% of a population with us. And 50% of population in both countries is women. So if we want to progress and move forward, then we have to work 100%. How can we work 100% if we do not give 50% of our population their rights? So that is just a thing that I think was in my head and I wanted to talk about. I wanted the girls to know that whatever science says today is questionable. I'm an anthropologist, I've studied human evolution, and I know that as we talk about evolution, theories keep changing, evolving. Today they're saying women have less upper strength body and less lower strength body. You and I could both argue on that, that a female actually changes her physical body when she gives birth. How many men can sustain that kind of movement? So that is a testament to her physical strength. And that is again, like, science keeps on changing their theories, but as a girl or a woman who aspires to be maybe a wrestler or a mountaineer or a fighter, she should never think that she is any less than a boy. She
Yeah,
can do
Miss.
whatever she do
Yeah,
because
Miss.
she
Yeah, you. Yeah,
has
you.
the capacity to do so. So on
Of
that,
course, you put a very good point. Only 1 minute. Only 1 minute. Excuse me. I'm really committed to your power and your strength. But actually, I can give you another proof that in Islam as a Muslim, we have the rule that 4 women can be married only to 1 man. What do you think about this?
can you say that again?
4 women in Islam, 4 women can be married only to 1 man.
And
It's
that
not a law, but yeah, scientifically it's proved the power of the man.
Okay, on that, I would actually like to, I think, I don't want to take this conversation very far, but I would like to put this out there for everyone who's listening, that the ayat in the Quran says, if you want, you can marry 4. But I know that you cannot do justice to them. So it is better that you marry 1. This is what the Quran says. But our clerics, just to appease their own sense of patriarchism, say, just take the first verse, which says, okay, you can marry 4, but leave behind the other 4, which God himself says that, and I know that you cannot do justice to them, so it is better that you marry 1. So let's not get into that debate. And I have Tahira here with us as well. And Tahira has a question that she'd like to pose. Tahira, I would like to give the conversation over to you and to ask you to put your question there and give your comments on the question.
Hello to everyone. I'm really enjoying the conversation and today's session. Thank you, Alia. So I have, unfortunately, I was not able to read the book, but since you, all of you have been talking about the book, I really wanted to ask this question that, were you, so this question is to both, this is for both girls and boys. So were you able to relate to any of the women or with their struggles or maybe to any of the qualities they had? It would be great if you share that. Thank you.
Afghanistan, would you like to take this question first? Tahira's posed a question while reading through the book. Was there any story that personally resonated with?
We will let Faisalabad to go first for this question, so we can go later.
All right, lovely. So Faisalabad, over to you. A story in the book that you personally resonated with, a struggle that you feel that you might have to overcome your goals. So if you could just talk on that. Sorry, we're running really short on time. So I would ask both Afghanistan and Pakistan to quickly come up with their answer to Tahira's question, and then we can end our session for today.
Hello, is my voice clear? Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Please continue.
Okay, I think that I can speak for a lot of people when I say that, yes, we can relate to the struggles in this book. And I don't think it's limited to one of the girls. It's actually almost, I would like to say most of them. Because number one, they were criticized just for being a woman. The criticism wasn't against their strength or their skills. All the people around them had to see was that we have a woman trying to take a position of power, and that was enough for them to criticize her. And I think this is relatable to a lot of us today, even when we go outside and people ask us, what do you want to do when you're older? And we name them a field such as engineering or law.
And their first response is, why would you choose that field? It is a male dominated industry. You wouldn't work well in there, and you just don't have the capability to do it. So yes, I think this is very relatable, and that's why it was really inspiring for me to read this book. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Khost, over to you.
Yeah. Yeah, before I go to the boys, I can give you the example from the book that had the same problem. Like, yeah, like Shukriya Khanam, so a pilot or a fly girl for Pakistan. So she says that I work with these. Actually, she was criticized because of working with male or men. So she says that I work with these men. Some of them are my students, others are colleagues, and I spend a lot of time with them. So what is wrong in flying together with them? So actually, it means that they had the same problem there as we are having nowadays with working, like women has problem with men, and also just men do not feel comfortable with women. So these are some historical problems that we have from the past, and still is ongoing, but it needs to be changed and get revolution. So we're really committed to do this, and actually we are working for this. And I hope these things get easier and get comfortable. So in the upcoming time. So I'll go back to my advice if they have anything interesting according to these things, these questions, so they will share them.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was an amazing session, like always. We thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I hope and pray that all of you learned something valuable, added to the story. And after this comment that comes in from Afghanistan, I would like to call a halt to the session and wish you all a good day. And we will, inshallah, meet again in a month's time. Afghanistan, over to you for the closing note. Tell us what you were saying.
Yeah, as you hear the women ask a question, I have the personal like here in Afghanistan, as there is a character in the book, Fearless book, Sana Mir, the female cricketer from Abbottabad, who was a captain of the team. She was playing in the streets, like she was not allowed to play like in academies. Finally she became a cricketer. Nowadays the Afghanistan Cricket Board has announced a female cricket team to the world, and there are so many disagreement posts and Facebook that are showing the disagreement this decision that Afghan people, especially the social media, use female cricket team. Our male cricket team is enough. So this is the personal problem that nowadays we're facing here in Afghanistan. But one thing that the book was written for the Pakistan female. I'm also impressed that to write a book like this, to present Afghan women like this, that was so interesting for me. I'm really impressed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And on that note, everybody be safe, be kind, be generous, look at each other as human beings and not as boys and girls. Help each other, support each other, and move forward to create better world. Thank you so much, and meet you again next month. Da Hafiz.